One of the most common goals people bring into therapy is surprisingly difficult to describe. They want to feel understood. Not advised, not analyzed, not fixed. Understood. Most people know the feeling when it happens, and they know the feeling when it doesn't. Interestingly, feeling understood has very little to do with whether someone agrees with you. It has much more to do with whether someone understands what the experience is like for you. Consider this example. A client says, "My partner forgot my birthday again." A friend might respond, "Maybe they've just been busy." Another person might say, "You shouldn't take it personally." Both responses may be reasonable, yet neither necessarily helps the person feel understood. A therapist might become curious about something else. They might say, "That sounds painful, especially if it isn't the first time it's happened." Notice what changed. The therapist didn't solve the problem. They didn't take sides. They didn't tell the client what to do. They moved closer to the emotional experience. And often that's where understanding begins. Many beginning therapists assume understanding comes from asking clever questions. Experienced therapists often discover something different. Understanding is frequently built through accurate observation, noticing something important, and naming it carefully. A client says, "I've spent years looking after everyone else." The therapist notices the exhaustion behind the statement and responds, "It sounds like you've been caring a lot for a very long time." Again, no advice, no interpretation, just a reflection of what seems present. This is one reason therapists spend so much time listening, not just for information, but for meaning, for emotion, for the experience beneath the story. People often arrive in therapy having told their story many times before. Friends have heard it. Family have heard it. Partners have heard it. Yet something still feels unfinished. The facts have been shared. The experience has not been fully met. Therapists gradually learn that understanding often lives in this gap. The gap between what happened and what it felt like. The gap between the event and its meaning. This is why therapists often pay attention to moments that others might overlook. A pause. A sigh, a sudden change in energy, a topic that keeps returning. A client says, "I'm over it," yet their eyes fill with tears. The therapist becomes curious, not because they think the client is wrong, because two experiences seem to be happening at once, and both deserve attention. Many people assume understanding requires agreement. Therapy teaches something different. A therapist can understand anger without encouraging it, understand fear without confirming danger, understand shame without agreeing with the criticism. Understanding asks,
"What makes sense about this experience?"
not, "Are you right or wrong?" For many clients, this feels unfamiliar. Much of life involves judgment: school, work, relationships, social media. People become accustomed to being evaluated. Therapy can feel different. The therapist is often trying to understand before trying to change anything. And this creates something important. Safety. When people feel understood, they often become less guarded, less defensive, more willing to explore, more willing to question their own assumptions, more willing to look at difficult experiences. This is one reason understanding is not just a nice feeling. It is often part of what makes therapy effective, because people rarely change when they feel judged. People are much more likely to explore change when they feel seen. Perhaps this is why therapists spend so much time trying to understand before they intervene. Not because understanding solves every problem, but because it creates the conditions for meaningful work. In many ways, understanding is not the end goal of therapy. It is the doorway. The moment where a person begins to feel, this person gets it. And once that happens, entirely new conversations become possible. And in our next video, we'll explore what happens when that process breaks down. Because if feeling understood creates connection, what happens when people feel misunderstood? We'll explore that next.